17, verse 9, it tells us that man may look at the appearance, but God, he looks at the heart. We know that David becomes king of Israel. When God called David, David was just a little farmer's boy. He was the smallest person in his family, but God saw something more to him. So when God calls you, he's not talking about your current you, he's talking about your future you. And I'm just going to talk about a couple of different examples of how the world may have seen us as opposed to how God saw someone. First one was Abraham. Abraham, as you all may not know, Abraham was in his late 80s and Sarah was 90. And God said, you're going to have kids. This is their dream, to have kids. And they're 80 and 90 years old. It's not only unbelievable due to God coming to them, but it's unbelievable because of their age. It's a biological thing. It's not a faith thing. Sarah's like, I'm dried up. This doesn't happen anymore. But then what happened? God intervened in their life. God said that, Abraham, you're going to become a father of a nation. God was talking to the future Abraham, not the current Abraham. When God calls you to a dream, he's talking about the future you, not the today you. And it's your job to keep going towards that future you. I'm sure all of us here today have a idea of what the future you would look like, right? Moses was called to go and lead the people of Israel out of Egypt. And how did the world see Moses? Moses was a murderer. And Moses wasn't very intelligent. He wasn't very articulate. And Moses had an attitude problem. He had all these reasons why he should not be used by God. Sorry, you don't need to do it anymore. Okay. He had to be used by God, but imagine what Moses had to feel like when he went off and told his wife, God told me to go to Egypt and tell Pharaoh, let me go. Moses didn't say, oh yeah, that's me. He's like, no, this is the right person. This isn't what I'm called to go and do. This won't ever work out. Why? Because Moses was a murderer. Moses wasn't very smart. Moses had all these reasons why not to have things done. But again, God was talking to the future Moses. Paul, for example. Paul wrote 75% of the New Testament. Most likely was most known for being a Christian killer. When God called him to go and become an apostle, and he went to Damascus, and God told the person who was coming, he said, no, he can't come here. He's like, I don't want Paul in my house. Paul's a killer. But how did God go and see Paul? God saw Paul as an apostle. God saw Paul as a person who advanced his kingdom. How does God see us? The dreams that God gave to you weren't just flashy moments in your life, but these are where you can really get off to. It doesn't mean that it becomes easy, right? It doesn't mean that Moses did not just go straight to Egypt and be set free. Abraham and Sarah waited years until they ever had children. So what I want to encourage you is to remember who God says you are. And do you all know what God says you are? In 1 Peter, the Bible tells us who God sees us as. God tells us that we are a royal priesthood, a peculiar people. And my favorite thing, he says, his special possession. He prizes you. We all know what our prized possessions are, right? Like, my iPhone costs a lot of money. That's a very prized possession. My wedding ring is a very prized possession. It's like, I'll do whatever it takes to hold on to these things. And God says you are his prized possession. You matter to God. And the enemy will try to go and tell you that you don't matter to God, right? Because you haven't accomplished everything you want. Maybe the world might tell you some bad things about you. But you have to, I want you to hear me well, that when God talks about you, he sees the future you. The future you can accomplish things. And it doesn't matter who you were before. It doesn't matter who you are today. It matters where you're going tomorrow. And I need to really get this into your spirit that God has great plans for you. Jeremiah 29:11 tells us that. It tells us, I know the plans I have for you. They're not plans to harm you or hurt you, but to give you an expected future. God, he has good plans for you. You are God's special possession. So I don't know what you're facing today. I don't know if you're going through a time where you feel really discouraged. I don't know if you're in a place where you're like, God made I had hopes and dreams and aspirations, but they've all faded away, and I can't bring those back. But today I want to encourage you that God has plans for you. All right. I'm going to ask y'all to stand up. We're going to do our benediction real quick. All right. I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand and repeat this with me. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer.